almost hate to try to follow that. Thank you, Nancy, Jamie. Ladies, y'all go ahead and leave. It's okay. I told Bob Gates this morning, it's good to see y'all here in spite of the weather. Bob said bad weather's better than no weather at all. That's right, man. I have a little accoutrement up here on the pulpit today. This was given to me when I left Dallas, Texas, Wilshire Baptist Church. Our layout and press pastoral assistant, Gene, gave me this when I, in God's cosmic sense of humor, called me to be a pastor. And this is actually from Ireland, but a shepherd overlooking the sheep. So thought I'd share that with you this morning. Please join with me and stand if you're able as we share the gospel reading for this morning. John 10. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd puts the sheep before himself, sacrifices himself if necessary. A hired man is not a real shepherd. The sheep mean nothing to him. He sees a wolf come and runs for it, leaving the sheep to be ravaged and scattered by the wolf. He's only in it for the money. The sheep don't matter to him. I am the good shepherd. I know my own sheep, and my own sheep know me. In the same way, the Father knows me, and I know the Father. I put the sheep before myself, sacrificing myself if necessary. You need to know that I have other sheep in addition to those in this pen. I need to gather and bring them too. They'll also recognize my voice. Then we'll be one flock, one shepherd. This is why the Father loves me, because I freely lay down my life. And so I am free to take it up again. No one takes it from me. I lay it down of my own free will. I have the right to lay down. I also have the right to take it up again. I received this authority personally from my Father. The gospel of our Lord for the people of our Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. I don't know about you, but it would be nice to think that believing in God and following God's paths keep us out of danger, safe from evil, basking in permanent sunlight, right? Not only is that not how the world works, it's not how God works either. I'm sure you know this as well as I do, so I'm not throwing any new light upon your conscience this morning, but for every green pasture, there is always going to be a dark valley. A dark, fearful valley. For every victory, there's a failure. For every loving friend, there's a hateful enemy. For every celebration, there's mourning. For every light, there is a darkness. I don't believe God leads us into darkness as punishment or even a test. Darkness just simply exists in the world. And the shepherd is faithful to stay with us and guide us through it. There was part of me that hoped when I believed in Jesus Christ, when I felt that Spirit moving in me at First Baptist Church of Pearl, Mississippi, in 1971. As I was white-knuckled on the pew trying to figure it out, there's something about believing I thought would keep me out of the darkness. And following, we would be able to avoid the darkness. But believing and following Christ is not a shortcut to avoiding the darkness. And we will stumble through it, but we will not stumble alone. we can take comfort that the shepherd's nook and the shepherd watch carefully over us, even when we can't see a way forward. I don't know about you, I don't really have that many people that I would consider an enemy. There are people that are wrong that don't like me. But sometimes you have an enemy, and sometimes you don't just want to defeat that enemy. You want to teach them a lesson, right? To see them crumble and slink away. We may not just want to win over them, but also do an extended version of our own personal touchdown dance, right? Or we're number one and you're not. We want our enemies to be shamed and not to forget it, right? But the shepherd who has given us rest, the shepherd who has guided us through the darkness, the shepherd who stands with us while we face our enemies, watches and prepares a feast for us, the psalmist says. And it's not an in-your-face kind of move, but a generous welcome. Not a show of rebellion or pride, but a show of abundance. Not a bragging backflip in the end zone, or for those of you who remember the first touchdown dance, Billy White Shoes Johnson, right? But it's a cup that overflows. The psalmist says, like the oil running down on the beard of Aaron. The merciful shepherd is our rest, our guide, our home for our whole life, and we take comfort in knowing that we are never alone. That's one of the greatest themes of our Christian faith, is we are never alone. No matter how bad things are, the psalmist says you can take your flight to one end of the earth to the other and you are never alone. The love that God has for you is never ending. One of the things that I remember from geometry, other than I was obtuse, is that when you have a line and you got two little box type ending things on, the line just stops right there, right? But when you got arrows on, the lines go opposite way ad infinitum, right? The psalmist says God's love for you is as far as the east is from the west, which are like those lines. The east and the west never touch. That's how deep the shepherd's love for you is. I often say the toughest things that I've ever had to do in my life, really, is put my dogs, various ones of them, to sleep. You know what dog spelled backwards is, right? Because I think dogs, at least in my estimation, grant us something to know what unconditional love is. Because no matter what kind of day you have, that dog's going to meet you at the door and love you to death when you get home. I got it times two. Even when my wife's not there. I've become enamored with this particular phrase of Scripture when Jesus says, "The sheep know my voice." God, I wish God would speak to us audibly sometimes. And sometimes I think God does through other people. But that still small voice sometimes, I wish it was a yell. Get my attention. Let me know. Don't let me wander. Jesus is the good shepherd. And Christ seems to communicate with us in languages and ways that are most unique, but they're always very genuine. Who are those trusted voices that you listen to and you reflect upon in your life? And what messages do those voices offer to you? Probably one of my favorite post-resurrection appearances is when Jesus is having a conversation with Peter. Frederick Buechner says, according to Paul, the first person Jesus came back to see on Easter morning was Peter. What he said and what Peter said, nobody will ever know, and maybe that's just as well. Their last conversation on this earth, however, is reported in the Gospel of John, and this is what John says. It was on a beach at daybreak. Some of the other disciples were there. Jesus had cooked breakfast, and when it was over, he went up to him and said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Simon, son of John, he asked again, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know I love you. Simon, it's like my mom asking me the same question over and over. John David, listen to me. Simon, son of John, listen, do you love me? Yes. Yes, Lord, you know I love you. And what did he say? Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. And I get the feeling Peter didn't miss the point. From fisher of fish to fisher of people to keeper of the keys of the shepherd, it was the rocks, and I don't mean that guy. I mean Peter's final promotion. And from that day forward, he never looked back. G.K. Chesterton spoke of the furious love of God. Rich Mullins sang the reckless, raging fury that we know to be the love of God. You know, I try to figure out this particular passage, and what I come to understand here is that sheep, we get compared to sheep, and that's really not a very good comparison, is it? Preacher one time said sheep are dumb, defenseless, and dirty. Dumb. I shared this with our Tuesday morning congregation, and I told them, it doesn't mean we're dumb, it means we do dumb things. Think about it. I'm at the front of the line at that one. You know? People look at me and say, what? Did you have a momentary lapse of reason, Mr. Pink Floyd? No, I just wasn't thinking. Well, that was obvious. It is what it is. Defenseless because really when it comes down to it, we're not as tough as we think we are. And things can break us down. Dirty, I don't know. I had a shower this morning, so I'm not sure that works. But sheep are notoriously pretty dirty. They have a reputation, sheep do, for getting themselves into trouble that they can't get out of, for foolishly following anyone, anywhere. Did you ever wonder when your parents said to you, maybe you wanted to do something, right? Maybe you wanted to grow your hair long in school, right? And your dad said, no, son, you're going to get a haircut. Even when I'm in college, I came home with long hair, and my dad said, we're going to get a haircut. I said, Dad, I'm 18. And I'm not getting a haircut. Okay, well, I'll take the car, and how are you going to pay for school now? Okay, I guess I'll get a haircut. But your parents said, I don't care what everybody else is doing. You're not going to grow your hair to look like Bob Gates. Or David Morgan, if you can tell them apart. And then there was that example of, you know, your parents, you don't want to do something, and your parents say, well, everybody else is doing it. Now, wait a minute. You said the other day, don't confuse my words. So we do that with God a lot of time. We all need someone, not just someone whose job it is, but someone whose calling it is, to lead us to rest and refreshment, to guide us through danger, to feed us, to give us a safe place. You felt safe when you came here today, didn't you? I hope so. I did. We all need a good shepherd. The one that gave life itself to care for us, to recognize us, to call us by name. Nancy, I love you. Jane, I love you. Thomas, yeah, I love you too. And we're on the road with the shepherd. Let me just say that if the inner journey doesn't match the outer journey, there is no freedom. There is no liberation. There's at least one big difference, I'll say, between actual sheep and followers of Jesus. Sheep can be led to be good sheep. But we as followers of Christ don't have to take the place of the good shepherd. As Christ followers, we know that Jesus gave his life for us, what he said here in John. For the flock he loves, but it doesn't stop there for us. Our shepherd doesn't just give his life for us, he also shows us how to be shepherds ourselves. That's why this means so much to me. I have a Chinese shepherd that I got when I was in Hong Kong doing a mission. You know what shepherd is in Cantonese? Muk Si. Shepherd, Muk Si. That's what they called me when I was in China. I was confused. It means shepherd. Our shepherd doesn't just love us, though. He teaches us how to love. You ladies sang it so beautifully. It may be easier just to be sheep, but when we follow our shepherd so closely, when we live fully in the presence of God and the Spirit, I believe the goodness of Christ, of the shepherd, spills out and makes us like him, makes us godly, to give comfort to those who hurt, to take care of those in darkness, to generously share the gifts and the life that we've been given. Most funerals use Psalm 23, and it gets worn out for me. I don't know about you. So if you guys, any of you die anytime soon, if you want me to do your funeral, let's not do Psalm 23, okay? No, it's your funeral. We'll do what you want to do. But this week, I read it a lot, every day. And I thought about those pastors who read those to people who are seriously ill or overcome with grief. And I thought about the vulnerability and foolishness of sheep that are characteristics. But when we confess we have a good shepherd and we trust our weakness and our helplessness to the good shepherd, he takes that weakness and vulnerability and laid down his life and offers us hope and reassurance that even though we wander, we are never lost. And we are on this earth doing what we've been called to do. So may you follow the Good Shepherd. May you in turn lead those who are lost to the Good Shepherd. In the name of Christ, amen.